Hi everyone and welcome to a new episode of Unmistakable. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing Jann Halexander, founder of UAP Afrique. Jann was born in 1982 in Gabon, now settled in Paris. He's an actor, singer and filmmaker. In 2023 he celebrated his 20 years in the music business. Former geography student with a major in regional planning, he recently published the English translation of his book, The UFO Issue in Central Africa. Through his writings, whatever their nature, Jann Halexander regularly explores themes that go against the grain. Without further ado, let's welcome our guest. Hi, Jann. So thank you so much for being our guest today at Unmistakable. Very pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much to UAP Education. I think this is a good title for a YouTube channel. Educate people. It's very important. It's UAP. It's not only Hollywood or movie. It's very serious. So it's a good thing. It's nice for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. In fact, I would like to start with free chatting between us on the UAP topic, starting from, let's say, something that you recently did, this book. I am going to read the English title, which is The UFO Issue in Central Africa, Gabon, where you were born, right? Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. And unfortunately, the book is not available yet, at least on Amazon right now, but I know that it was recently published in English, and I'd like to start asking you, why did you approach this topic? And to my knowledge, you're one of a few African person who approached the topic, so it's very interesting to me to understand why you did it and how you did it. I don't know.
Oh, this is a hard question. I cannot give a short answer, sorry. Me, I'm French Gabonese. My father is Gabonese from Gabon in Central Africa. And my mother is French from France, in the west of the France. She's white. My father is black. And I was born in 1982 in Gabon, in Libreville. This is the capital. This is a main city. Yes, the capital. And so I grew up after in Canada, Ottawa, between 1986 and 1989. And I came back with my family in Gabon because my father was diplomat. And he worked for the Gabonese government. Now my parents are retired and they live in France. But I have to say, I have any passion for ufology. It's not a passion for me. It's really it's an interest for me as a citizen. Because in my life, personal life, I lived some difficult things in relationships with the UAP. And that's why we have to make a pedagogy and to give information to people because, of course, millions of people saw UFO and maybe aliens, but if you see our society in the world, it's still a minority. Everybody doesn't see UFO or an alien. It's very, very strange. It's weird, but it's a good question because, for example, since 1947, the famous year with Kenneth Arnold, skeptical cannot explain all the events through the world. It's very difficult. They cannot give a good answer to this strange phenomena. So for me, it was a personal question and a citizen act.
Okay.
Like citizen in the United States, Canada, now Europa, it's more and more and more, like in China, in India. In India, we have now ufologists in India. Of course, in Brazil, in Peru, in Argentina, in Russia too. But in Japan, of course, recently, and in Africa, I think it's a good moment now.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you see Africa, when you speak about Africa and UFO, in Western countries, most of the time, they they talk about two things. The first fact, this is a famous school in Zimbabwe
Yeah,
in
Ariel.
1994.
Mm-hmm.
You have a beautiful documentary.
Yeah,
This is Ariel Phenomenon. This is a good documentary. But this is like a story for Western people.
I see.
In fact, it doesn't mean a lot of things for African public. And if you notice, most of protagonists in this story are white, and they are white from Europe or Canada.
Yeah.
They are not white African white, you know. And black Africans sometimes appear in documentary, but they are not the main protagonist. So it's like if the story was um, realized for a kind
Western.
of public,
Yeah.
you know. And the other fact, this is the case of Credo Mutwa.
Mm-hmm.
Credo Mutwa, this is it was a Zulu shaman, Zulu sorcerer.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are fascinated in Credo Mutwa. But maybe Credo Mutwa said a lot of stupidity. Maybe he mixed some real things
Mm-hmm.
with a kind of spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And he was a traditional conservative man. For example, a lot of people don't know that he support apartheid because he thought that mixed relations was not a good thing for the Zulu blood, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see this kind of behavior in other parts of the world with other shaman or sorcerer or ganga. They are not still open-minded
Yeah.
about
I,
our world. Sometimes they are very conservative. You can be open-minded about the nature, but not necessarily about human people around you. So it's very important, and it's not a surprise that David Icke,
mm-hmm.
which is a kind of white supremacist,
Mm-hmm.
loved Credo Mutual
Yeah.
because these two guys are very, very conservative. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
see the
it's
point.
yes, and it's a big problem for African continent to have on one side, oh no, yes, on one side, Ariel School, other side, Credo Mutua. Now, uh, it must change. I think
Mm.
so.
Great, thanks. That's a very important point, and one of the most important point I wanted to touch with you tonight, because basically, when we talk about high strangeness, or basically something which is not experienced every day, um, we know that here the symbolic mind appears, no, and symbolic, you talked about sorcerers, shamans. Me myself had to do with shamans in South America. I know what you're talking about. The fact is that culture is not a fixed point. It's something which is continuously exchanged between the people who lives it day by day, And basically, there are two or three levels. The first is the consciousness. Then there is the symbolic tools, which are different from group to group. And then comes the words, no? At the beginning was the word said. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's why I would like to, if you could share with us some specific words, maybe, that African people used to report these UAP cases. Just to, as you can see, there is an African mask behind me, but that's not because of this, let's say, happening, but because we in family, we have a relationship with Africa too, because my wife lived in Africa for a couple of years in Burkina Faso. And I always remember, she's a medical doctor, and she, the first time she told me, you know, my patients always came to me telling me, I have a pain in my heart, mal de coeur, which is not meaning what we think. Okay, it means, you know, it means I'm feeling bad somewhere. Okay, and so here is a example, maybe a stupid example, but of a structure that we as human beings use when we are speechless in front of something which is out of our ordinary borders. And here comes the fact that taking down notes like anthropologists and others do with UAP means to understand which tools we as human beings are using to understand the strangers, as you said before. So I don't know, some words that you stumble into during your field researches or whatever.
It's difficult to find the good words. I think about a paper by Beatrice Villarol, the
Yes,
Villarol,
we know
yes.
her. Yeah.
And she wrote about the necessity to maybe use new words because sometimes UAP or UFO, this is a limited word. But the problem, the UAP phenomenon, it's like a swamp.
Mhm.
And it's difficult to make a selection between which is in relationships with UAP and which is not. If I give you an example for Gabon. So the first case, this is the case of Lionel Ikugu. He worked in the streets of Libreville, the main city of Gabon.
Yeah.
And it's a night. He takes money in a bank machine, and after he walks in the street. This is a night. It's a dark street, more or less, and suddenly he sees an egg, big egg with legs in the streets. What is it? This is a spirit? This is an alien? This is a UFO? This is a machine? What can you say about that? But the good work of, for example, Jacques Vallée, but not only, but of the ufologists, especially in the north of Europe, but even in Italy, when you saw papers in the 60s and even 50s, you have some testimonies with egg with legs, you know?
Yeah, also the
And
dinosaur, for instance.
sometimes the egg can fly, can disappear. And maybe the legs, it's not really legs, but like a mechanism.
Mhm.
And so you can make the relationships between the testimony of Lionel in Gabon and the testimony of Italian or French guy in the countryside in Europe in the 50s. It's very important when you have a lot of data.
Yeah, in fact. In fact,
So here you can make the relationships, but it's more difficult when you talk with people and you say, did you see a UFO? Did you see an alien? Did you see? They say, no, I didn't see an alien, but I saw a forest spirit.
yeah,
What can I say with this kind of information?
exactly.
The spirit of forest or forest spirit, I don't know, I have to say that, but it's, of course, a non-human intelligence, but it's UFO, UAP intelligence. There is a link between this spirit and maybe mothership in the sky. You know what I mean? It's very difficult.
Yeah, in fact, no, that's exactly one of the main point to me to, as you said at the beginning, to educate people that we are facing the borders of our reality, and it speaks to us in some way because it speaks to us according to our cultural tools, and so here, I remember in other interviews that I saw with you online that you described two or three incidents in which UAP, UFOs, you used the word destroyed or
Yeah,
hit
yeah,
some villages.
yeah, yeah.
So that could be an interesting boundary, let's say, between um, an happening which touch the inner side of us and an happening which also include the outer space, I mean, out of us. And so what about those happenings? Did you have the possibility to talk with, let's say, first-hand experiencer of that? Or did you do some researches according to researches done by other African people? The reason why I'm asking that is because I'm very interested in how you could approach with a witness in Africa. Because as you say, if I go there and make the usual inquiry that I do in a field investigation in Europe, it makes no sense probably. Because
Mhm.
this happened to me in South America at the beginning. You
Yeah,
have to change the way you approach the
yeah,
topic because the reality is different
yes,
with
of
or
course.
not. And so just speaking about that, if you have some examples or
I think the good point for me, I was born in Gabon,
yeah,
and
sure.
uh, most of my family is French, white in France, but I kept contact with the Gabonese side, and I'm still active in the Gabonese diaspora, Gabonese community in Europe. And you have a lot of cultural connections between Gabonese community and Congolese community.
Mhm,
So this is Central Africa, you know.
mhm.
Of course, you have Cameroon too, you have Central Africa Republic too, but for the moment, for my work, for the first book, I was focalized
Yeah,
about
focused, yeah.
Gabon and the two Congo because it was already very difficult, you know. So after it was very a big challenge, but um, when
Probably
you
200 million people, right? Something like
yeah
that. Yeah,
yeah
okay, something like
yes, and when you're still in a community, when you keep contact with community, it's more easy to speak about
that.
some subjects. And some people knew that I had an interest for this strange Christian, and some people asked me why,
Yeah.
and I answered why. And more and more, I knew some people from Gabon and Congo who were okay to speak with me by WhatsApp or in a rendezvous, physical rendezvous. And so it was more easier for me. But I think because I'm for one part Gabonese. I'm not sure if you are Chinese or Japanese or Italian. If you go to Gabon and you say, I make a documentary about UFO, UAP, and Gabonese society, I think it will be more difficult.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Sure.
And so people could tell me some things, some strange things, but it's not, how can I say that? When you are alone and you see something strange, but you have a lot of things to do in your day, day by day,
Yeah.
just you see, you put in your memory, and this is the life, you know. You you cannot take the time to contact an association, a journalist, um, a media to talk about your experience. And because it's not only because of other necessities, it's because there is a kind of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
They do their things, I do my things, you know?
I see the point.
But
Yeah.
it's not necessary to know what they do. Me, I do what I do in my life, day by day, on the earth, in my city, in my community, in my village, in my town. And the other are the others.
Yeah. In fact,
Why,
I
why
guess
should I contact the others?
yeah.
And anyway, in a lot of African society, you have the sorcerer, the nganga, the shaman. He makes the connection. So you it's not necessary for you to make the connection because he makes the connection.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And some African people are very skeptical about the behavior of Western society about UAP because they don't really understand why some European or American people want to know the truth. Me, I'm for the truth. I understand it's necessary for me, but
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of people don't really understand why.
Yeah. Clearly,
Because
it's a
they
matter of
think it could be dangerous. And of course, I think so. It could be dangerous. But anyway, it could be dangerous without offensive contact from human people. It could be dangerous without comprehensive behavior from human people.
yeah.
We can stay like this and we can wait. It's very stupid. We have to analyze this phenomena or this kind of
Yeah.
people from other other words. It's very a strange discussion.
But and that's again, we are opening interesting doors here. On one side, yeah, it's not easy to follow a path till the witness, let's say, in some environments like maybe Africa, also South America, it works the same. Because when you talk about the sorcerers or the shamans, where the head of a village, sometimes in South America, they are the ones who have to think about the whole community. So if you as a single has an issue, you go to the chief, okay, and leave it there. And it's not your thing any longer. It's up to him to understand and to decide what to do. And eventually he will call you back. So I'm wondering, did you go through this process in some way, or how long did it take? It was something, I mean, to write down this book, how long did it take to you? How many years, months? It's something that you started 10 years ago and then step by step?
I began in summer, not last year, but the other year,
Okay.
2022.
Okay. Okay. And then you started, did you go there to talk with someone?
It was step by step
Hmm.
because I have a busy life too,
Can imagine.
you know, so it was step by step. I finished my work in Canada
Hmm.
last summer,
Okay.
and after it was the corrections to see the faults, um, work about uh, the general aspect of my book. It was very, this is not a big book, you know, it's 65 pages. So it's not big, but it was difficult for me. And I was wondering, I stop this and I publish the book, or I wait
Hmm.
maybe maybe
To
to
gather
have
more.
one
Yeah.
more free testimonies, but I hadn't, and I didn't want to create something. So I say just publish, and after you will see.
And
And
what happened after?
effectively,
Yeah.
yes, after I had some reaction from
Mm.
people from Senegal,
Mm.
from Ivory Coast, from Congo, from Cameroon. Uh, for people, it was like maybe I opened a door,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very sad because in our African continent, you have a lot of very, very intelligent people, intellectuals, and
Scientists.
scientists, and I don't understand why they don't think about this subject since a long time.
Mm.
Why in African French speaking countries, why I am the first? Me, I don't want to be a pioneer. It's not
Yeah. Okay.
interesting for me. I don't want to be a pioneer. As I say, I worked about UAP as a citizen,
Mm-mm. And
not to be a pioneer, you know. But some African now told me, oh, you are a pioneer. No, I'm Jann, I'm singer, I'm father, I'm a writer, but I don't want to be the Mr. Ufology of Africa.
yeah,
You know what I
sure.
mean?
I
It's
see
not
the point.
interesting for me.
Yeah. Clear. But probably you started something, and now will be interesting to see what will happen. I mean, if someone else, maybe there or here, will go on. For instance, we were wondering if any, let's say, scientific person, maybe in Africa, ever approached you to talk about the subject. Did you have opportunity to?
There is a good consequence because so I founded UAP Afrique
Yep.
last November with the podcast, historic podcast about UAP facts in African continent. And now in UAP Afrique, I have a correspondent,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Yeah.
in Togo.
Oh.
This is Sanson Mawololo Alija, and is a very an interesting guy. He's journalist. He knows very good all the area of Sahel in
Mhm.
West Africa.
Yeah.
He knows the question of terrorism,
Yeah.
Islamism, and is he he has a good thinking about UAP question.
Wow.
For him, it's very, very important that African society, African governments work about these subjects, and not only Western people or
That's great.
Russian or China, because
Yeah,
this
yeah, I
is
see.
other
Okay.
big countries,
Yeah.
leaders about the IP question. And so Sanson wrote some papers for UAP Afrique because we have the YouTube channel and we have uapafrique.com, and the paper are available in French and in English. It's
Great.
very good. I'm very happy. And I hope that other people in Africa uh, will join us, or maybe they can create their own
Yeah, yeah, I
organism.
understand.
It's a
To
good
start
thing.
something. Yeah, to
Yes,
start
it's not
something.
a problem. But I think this is a good point with Sanson Mawololo Adija. And Sanson Mawololo uh, wrote a book with us. It's a kind of compilation.
Hmm.
It's about all UFO sightings in Africa.
Wow.
It's a big, 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 big job. And I will publish the book in 2 weeks,
Wow.
approximately.
Great.
It's
We
very
will put
good news.
everything in the description of this podcast just for our listeners. Okay.
Yes,
Great.
it's a good news. I'm very happy for that, and it's very serious, and it's very serious because when he was young, he saw UFO
Wow.
in
I see.
Togo.
Okay. Wow.
Uh,
Very.
yes,
We will try to cover this as well when it's when the
yeah,
book is out. It
yes, yes,
will be
yes,
great. Thank you so much.
yes,
Really, really.
yes.
And so, this drives me to another aspect that we have the opportunity to discuss with you today, because as you reminded before, you're a singer, you're an artist, you're an author. So um, one of the mission, let's say, of UAP education is to try to remove stigma. And there is already stigma but stigma is different from environment to environment. So I was wondering, in your environment as an artist, does your, let's say, colleagues or people working in the artistic field talk about UP topic, and what's the way they react when someone, maybe you, raises the question?
Not really. I think it's very surprising for people when I say that, but the artistic environment is not so open-minded.
Hmm.
As you can see, for example, in France, in the current society, you have maybe 40% of the population is homophobic, racist, anti-Semitic. Okay, you can have the same,
Percentage.
maybe not exactly the same, but you can have the same proportion portion in the artistic middle. In the artistic middle, you have a lot of people who are narrow-minded. And about the subject of UAP, some people, some movie maker, writer, singer, can use the alien as a material for creation, but they don't think most of the time it exists. It can exist. you know. And this is a difference between them and I. Me, when I wrote the song Abduction in 2018, a lot of people were surprised because they understood that it was not a simple song. Uh, it was more or less biographical,
Yeah.
and they were disturbed. For me, it was serious, and this is the difference. A lot of people can talk about UFO in a series. It's cool, you know, for Netflix or Amazon Prime, but they don't think most of the time it can be around us, that it can be serious. And sometimes some people in the ufologist middle who are very passionate about UAP question ask me, did you see this movie? Did you see this movie? Did you see this? No, no, because I'm not in the same reality. I've no interest for Alien trilogy. It's not interesting for me. It's well realized. It's good production with good stories. It's very efficient for a public in a cinema. I know, but it's not interesting for me because for me, the UAP question is very, very complex and very more serious
Yeah.
that a blockbuster.
Yeah.
So you cannot attract me with Independence Day, with Alien Trilogy, with all this kind of movies. It's not interesting for me. Maybe I make exception for movies like Intruders,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Dark Skies in
Mm-hmm.
2014 it was, or Horse Girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's for me in my personal life, it's more more interesting.
Yeah, I see your point. And you said something which is again interesting, but it's a hard topic. So uh, probably many of us, I mean, we are both interested in this topic, so probably happened to both of us to be, for instance, at a dinner with friends, and someone knows that me, you, we are interested in, and they uh, say something about the topic to talk about it. And then it's interesting the reaction of the other people. I don't know if it happened also to you, but there are some people doesn't want to speak about the topic. Other try to ridiculize it immediately. And me myself find myself usually to have no more than 7 seconds, really no more than 7 seconds to step forward to tell something that can happen, that can make happen something interesting, which could be to remove a topic if it's disturbing for someone, or to say something serious, uh, to guide the discussion at the right level, because the problem is to stay at the right level. So do you find yourself in such a dinner? I mean, it happened to you that people try to ask you something, and for which reason do you think that does this happen? Because this is the
Well,
question: why does it happen?
I must say that things are changing in France.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how in Italy,
Here
but
too.
a lot of people notice a change, especially in France since the colloque at Sorbonne University. Some people realized that it could be very serious because there was a mediatic cover about this event. It was very important. And around I have some people who contact me recently, and they told me, I was not interested about your work um, but I think that you was right. Uh, I remember when you thought that it was a very, very important subject for the following years. I didn't believe when you said that last year, but now I understand better. What do you say? I have a lot of reactions like this, but obviously, I have still a silly guy or a silly girl around uh, who thinks that it's stupid, is not interesting, it's bullshit. It's good. I think a diversity of
Sure.
of point of views, but more seriously, in my personal environment, I I try to be careful and to have a good environment around I. It's very, very important. And some people sometimes are disappointed with me because they don't know anything about the subject and they want to make a discussion about this with me. And I say, no, sorry, no. You have a lot of books, good books. You have a lot of good YouTube channel. Just see, just read. And after, maybe we can talk about that. But as I say, I'm not the Mr. Ufology. I don't
Yeah.
want to be the Mr. Ufology of Africa. It's not interesting for me. I don't want to talk. I talk about abduction experience in free podcast, French-speaking podcast, um, specific podcast, not generalist. So it's normal because this is a serious subject. I don't want to go in stupid podcast, very popular, uh, without any inequality, you know. Uh, I, I need a good discussion with good people.
Okay.
And I can live day by day without talk about UFO in my life. It's good. It's okay. I have a big life as you, as a lot of people. Of
Yeah.
course, in my life, sometimes I think about that. Of course. But in my relationships with people around I, no, it's not necessary. When I go in a supermarket, I don't want to talk.
Oh, sure.
I don't want to talk about UFO with people. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
subway. It's not interesting for me. It's not necessary. I love the life. I love a lot of things in the life, and I love life day by day. You
Right.
know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love, I love a friendship. I love love. I love food, and I have a passion for French poetry, for French poetry songs. I'm not only a ufologist who is writing his next book
Next
about
book, yeah.
motherships in Africa. It's not really interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but yeah, thank you. Exactly. My question was to discover a little bit what you do when someone raises the topic. So you're telling us probably the best is to guide them, taking the best information, pieces of information that are around us. And I fully agree. I mean, and here comes, I make a step back, the last one, then I will propose you one last question. I would like to step back to, because you now started talking about something which reminds me religion. I mean, the topic of UAP could be very close to the topic, in inverted commas, of religion, because it unites and it divides. And most of all, it speaks to our inner chords, to our inner parts. And why I would like to step back, because I would like you to comment this a little bit, linked to the African connection. I mean, do you think, maybe it's a silly question, but do you think that it could be, so going back to words to be used, but could be interesting to approach the topic with African countries, with remembering always that religion is a part of our life every day? Because, for instance, in the Western country, you can see there is a clear distinction between, let's call it tech approach, folklore approach. You see, it seems to be two different levels, and it's difficult sometimes in Western country to speak about both the sides at the same moment. On the contrary, again, I speak about South America, but my question was for you in Africa. In South America, it would be impossible. I spent my life in universities, and any professor speaks about, let's say, spiritual approach of their everyday life. I mean, it's in their way of doing things. It's impossible to separate them. And they do it in a light way, okay? Not so. So how is in Africa, when you approach the topic of UAP, do you feel that you're also touching religious topic, or do you have to do the reverse order path?
In the case of South America, and this is a difference, I think, with most of the countries in Africa. I think it's clear in South America that you can be spiritual without be Catholic or Jewish or Muslim or etc. etc. You can have your own spirituality.
Yeah.
With a connection with nature, big connection with nature, with Pachamama. This is a difference. In a lot of countries of Africa, the religion are a social fact. Without your religious community, you cannot survive in some districts, in some town, in some village. It's very important to know that. You go to the church because maybe you can gain something, seeing another person of your community in the same church. It's you have not a welfare state in most of African country. So you have most of the time, religions, and of course the influence of minister, big shifts of enterprise, patriarch.
Mhm.
It's very difficult in a lot of community to be free in your head. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
very big.
I see your point. That's a very, very focal point when you
Yeah,
approach African people, to
yes,
what I understood, and you are confirming it. I mean, you cannot access any topic without linking it to the social religious path, right?
yes, yes. And um, you have a lot of taboos in African
Mm-hmm.
society.
Yeah.
The place of the women, the place of LGBT people, the place of tribalism, the hate or the problems between different tribes, for example. And you have a lot of problems, for example, if you come from a family of singers, you cannot mix you with a family of owners, commercial owners, you know. It's a big problem. You have maybe you are prisoner most of the time of your community.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah.
And a lot of people above the society, in the high peaks of society, cannot appreciate that there is maybe something around them.
Yeah.
It's not possible because they need to
Control.
keep thousands or millions of people in their arms, yes,
Yeah.
under the influence, you know,
Yeah.
and it's a big tragedy.
Mm.
It's very a big tragedy. When I say it's a tragedy, it's not only my point of view. I have some African intellectuals now, young, of my generation. They write me in private message in Twitter, and all they say is the same thing. It could be a disaster in Africa for a lot of people in the aid.
Mm.
So we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. I think that the following years, maybe the 3 or 4 years,
Mm.
uh, will be very, very important. I don't know why exactly, but
It's
I
just the feeling.
yes, but I'm not lonely.
Mm.
I think a lot of people have the feelings
Mm.
there is something which occurring, but what exactly? It's difficult to say.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting. You have some African movements. They have already decided that disclosure it's a piece of theater by Western countries.
Mm.
It's more easy. It's easier, or it's more
Mm-hmm.
easy. Yeah.
That's the same.
Yes. To say uh, the alien don't exist and this is an invention from human United States,
Okay.
white European people, Canadian people, because it's very difficult to think about something, some people, some entities who don't care about your religion, who don't care about your social place, who don't care
Mm.
about your tribe, you know?
Yeah. I see a point. Yeah.
And if you if you have a clinical point of view about our global society, what does it mean Italian identity? What does it mean, French identity? What does it mean, Russian identity? Nothing. For, for the bears, for the fish, for the ants, it doesn't mean anything. But we can dominate the ants, the fish, the bears, the elephants. We can dominate. But here, you have something, some things which can dominate use. It's a big difference.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
For these things, it's not really obvious that our way of life, it's important.
Yeah, and that's why the educational process should be at front stage right now. But what could be done? I mean, from an educational point of view, that's our question. Not because we can do anything in the two of us, but just generally thinking. And so we go back where you started. That's important that the more and more, in some way, maybe step by step,
Yeah,
that something people could talk about the topic in the street or when they
yeah,
can or
yeah,
more freely, right? So that also to ease the stress that could come if anything will be revealed, or anyway just to be more in peace with nature, no, because if this is part of our surrounding. So yeah, thank you for this overview of Africa, Jan. Um, I would like to conclude this interview with you with a typical question that we do to everybody. As you know, our podcast is called Unmistakable. And the idea is to ask everybody, which was your unmistakable moment? What was the moment, if there was any, could be a book
oh,
happening at I don't know what, uh, but give you the idea that, okay, the topic, let's say, exists, it's unmistakable.
oh, it's a very, as I say, this topic is has a personal dimension for me
Okay.
in my life. I think I can say when I saw a UFO in a Parisian suburb at the end of 2013, I was very shocked during the following months. Very shocked. I couldn't sleep. A lot of nightmares, new nightmares, sorry, very different, very dark. And I had to educate myself with books. It was very long, but it was necessary because I didn't want to become crazy. It was very difficult. And I remember when I saw this UFO, it was first above a building,
Okay.
but uh, it was like in French we have a good word. This is boîte de Pandore, uh, Pandora box. I don't know.
Ah, yeah, Pandora box.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, Pandora box.
yeah, Pandora's box.
Oh, then great. So it was like a Pandora box, but a lot of things in my life since I was child. And it was really disturbing, but I can say there is a before and after.
Okay.
And now it's very difficult for me, but of course I'm not alone. I know some people like me, so this is a good thing. It's very important for me. But for example, when I work in a forest, of course, I will be think about the hunters. I will think about some animals, but I will think about two. This is a big difference now, and it's very strange. I think this is a good word. It's very strange for me to live in our reality, but in the same time, I have the feelings that it's just our reality, and we have a lot of other strange realities around us. Maybe I silly, it's just in my head.
No, it's good. It's clear. It's clear. Yeah. Thank you. Really. Thank you so much, Jann. Thank you for your time, for your lovely chatting, and see you soon. Thank you.